Hello, my crafting friends. I have some Woodland Farmhouse Christmas DIYs. I am so excited to show you. These are so rustic, so budget friendly, and with just a touch of whimsical. I know you're going to love them, so come craft with me. I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into these DIYs. For this first DIY, I'm going to be using this little 4x6 farmhouse frame from the Dollar Tree, and two of these little flocked pine picks from the Dollar Tree. These come in a pack of 6, but I'm only going to need 2. To start off, I'm going to take one of my picks and I'm just going to put it right in this clip here to hold it still so that I can kind of measure how long I need to make my pine go all the way to the bottom of my frame. I'm going to be using this pine to build a little woodland Christmas tree. So I'm going to take and I'm going to snip off the long wire, and I'm going to snip off this little piece of pine here that was right in the center of these other 2 stems, but I'm not going to throw that away. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to add this next piece of pine right here on top of my first one. I'm just going to be using these pine stems to just build a little pine tree. I'm going to turn this around now because I want the branches of my tree to be going downwards, not upwards. So let's just flip that around there. I'm going to take the second stem and I'm just going to start trimming off the little pine pieces here. And I'm just going to kind of match these up, see what looks good where, and hot glue them down to, like I said, create our little woodland Christmas tree. I just want this to look like a pretty pine tree that's maybe stuck out in the middle of the woods with just a little bit of snowfall on it. I'm going to take this little tiny piece that I cut off of the other one and I'm going to hot glue it right here to the top, kind of extend the top of this tree up and use it to hide a little bit of that metal clip. So I'm just going to keep taking these stems, trimming them apart, and placing them so that my pine stems go all the way to the bottom of the frame. This isn't a Christmas tree where you see the trunk sticking out. I want my pine to go all the way to the ground. It would be sweeping and touching the ground. One of those little trees, I'd imagine maybe it's a little woodland creatures. Maybe there's a little fox and a chipmunk this is their little Christmas tree out in the woods. Now this little piece here was kind of sticking out farther than I needed. I'm just going to give it a little trim so that all my branches are a little more symmetrical. Not perfect, but just perfectly imperfect. Now for the star, I was going to use this little wood cutout. This is just one of those little star cutouts from the Dollar Tree. But then I found this little, it was actually a broken gingerbread ornament that I had. The little hanger of it had come off and I thought, this might be a really cute choice for a star. The other option was a little rusty star, which I also liked, but I ultimately ended up going with the gingerbread ornament. I thought it would just fit in perfect with this little woodland rustic theme. But either way, I think whether you use the wood star or the rusty star or any other star, it would look good. And I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue this right to the top. This is going to finish hiding that metal clip that's holding our tree to our frame. And that is it for this one, guys. It's so easy. It's so simple, but it turns out so cute. This is the perfect size. You could pop it on your mantle, put it on a little side table, or even in a tiered tray. For this next DIY, I'm going to start off by taking this just piece of poster board. This is just a piece of poster board from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start rolling it up and I'm going to hot glue it to make myself a large cone. You could also use a large styrofoam cone, but I didn't have one of those and I had this poster board and it worked perfectly for my purposes. In fact, I think this would work better than the actual styrofoam cone. So I'm just going to hot glue this down, and I'm going to cut off my excess. And finish gluing this edge down here. I don't want it sticking up. I do want to cut off my bottom here and make sure that it's flush because this will be standing up, so I don't want it to be wobbly. So I'm just going to kind of flatten my cone a little bit and cut flush right across the bottom. And if you kind of fold it one way and then fold it the opposite and it's flush on both sides, you know you're good. So my cone turned out to be 14 inches long, pretty decent sized. So I'm going to take these little berry garden door and windows. These are from the Dollar Tree that I got over the summer. If you can't find these little door ornaments are also a really great alternative. So I'm going to just take my little fairy door here, my little mushroom woodland looking fairy door, and I'm going to, using a very generous amount of hot glue, add it right here to the bottom of my cone. This is going to be the door to our little woodland Christmas house. Yes, we are making a little woodland Christmas house. Watch these little lines. They do heat up quite a bit when you put the hot glue on them. So next I'm going to take my little windows and I'm just going to play around here. I was trying to see where I wanted. I was originally going to use both of the windows, kind of put one angle to the side and one to the other, but I just didn't like that. And I ended up just going with one of the windows right here in the top front, kind of the second story little window right above the door. You could also put the second one in the back, I suppose, but I just ended up going with the one. Next, I'm going to take, this is just one of those $5 garlands from Walmart. This is about half of a garland. I've used this for other projects, and I'm just going to kind of measure around from one side of my door to the other. And I'm going to dig down, find my base wire, and with my wire cutters, I'm just going to snip that off. Just be sure when you cut these to take your cutters and take those edges and just bend them over, because one, they're sharp, and two, if you don't, your little pine pieces will start to fall off that main wire and you don't want your garland coming apart. So I'm just going to take all my little pine pieces here and I'm just going to kind of all turn them kind of one direction and then fit this around my little woodland Christmas house here. And using, once again, a generous amount of hot glue, you're going to find this project takes a little bit of hot glue for sure. I'm just going to start gluing my pine down around the base here. And I'm just going to adjust my pine a little bit so that it's kind of pushed down out of the way. It's not going to be perfect. Don't worry. We will go back at the end. We will fix our pine. You just want it glued down secure. I'm going to kind of glue it down tight around that door. I want my pine to be right up against my little door there. Now taking the rest of my garland, I'm not going to cut it anymore. I just cut that first piece to go around the door. I'm just going to bend my wire to kind of fit around the top, snugly around the top of the door. And then using hot glue, secure it down and start gluing and wiring, wrapping this around my entire cone. We're going to cover our whole cone and pine. Like I said, I'm not going to cut it, not even when I get up around the window here. The window's small enough so that I can just kind of bend my wires of my garland around it to go around it. enjoying this video so far, be sure to give this video a like, and if you have not done so already, I really hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me again in the future. I would absolutely love to have you join me again. And you've probably noticed YouTube has a new feature out called Hype. It's just a free way for you to support your favorite creators and videos you like. It just shows YouTube that you enjoyed a video and it lets them know to share it with even more friends. So if you enjoy this video, I hope you'll consider also hitting that hype button. It really does help my channel and I would greatly appreciate it. So once I have my pine all the way up wrapped around, I'm just going to start going through and adjusting my branches. I'm just going to kind of scrunch them in, twist them around, just get a little bit of they're a little chaotic right now. It looks a little bit of a hot mess. I know. Don't panic. It will be fine by the end. But you just kind of got to go around, play around with it, adjust your branches, fluff them out, bend them in, whatever you need to do to get a little bit of control of this little wild pine here. So I'm going to take my hot glue here so you can still see some of the white showing, and that's okay. That's going to happen. We're going to fill this in more, but I am going to take some hot glue and I do want to make sure that my pine is glued all around my little window and my doors. And I'm even going to take my wire cutters and give some of these branches a little trim because some of them are just a little too long. But just add your hot glue wherever you need to tack it down. Whatever you need to do, just play around with it until it looks good to you. Next, I'm going to take these small little pine cones. You can get these little pine cones all over places. You can find them on Amazon. Amazon, you can get, I think, a giant bag of them, of like over 160 some pieces for under $10, I think. But I'm going to take my little pine cones here, and I am just going to start hot gluing my pine cones in and around and all over my little woodland Christmas house. These are going to go and fill in any place you need to. I'm going to be very generous with my pine cones and tuck them in all over around. It'll help hide any of your cone that's showing underneath. Just wherever you think one looks good, hot glue one in. I'm going to lay this down. Maybe you can see a little better what I'm doing and kind of how it's going. But as you can see, I'm adding quite a bit of pine cones. I want there to be a lot of pine cones on my little woodland Christmas tree. I kind of imagine this as maybe a little chipmunk family's house that's nestled way out in the middle of the woods somewhere, someplace where no human eyes would ever see, and it's just this large wild pine tree that they have made their little home, and it's just covered in all kinds of pine cones. Guys, if you know me, I like to give my little projects backstories. So next I'm going to go in with just some dried Spanish moss. You can find it at the Dollar Tree if your Dollar Tree ever has it, in mine does not. But Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Walmart, you can find it really inexpensively lots of places. And I'm just going to take, and using some hot glue, I'm going to start tucking in just little small bunches of this moss in and around my tree. I want my tree to have a lot of moss on it, because like I said, this is a large old pine that's just stuck out in the middle of the woods, untouched by humans, just wild. Have you ever seen the trees down south that have the big, beautiful Spanish moss hanging off of them, just dripping off of them everywhere, the pines? I think that's kind of what I imagine, but in a winter scene instead of a warm one. And I want to get my moss tucked in and around the door here, really kind of sticking out a little bit. Just play around and have fun with this. Get creative. Once I've got all my moss added to my liking, you can see here what it looks like front and back all around. And at this point, you really can't see any of the cone. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I'm going to use this just to lightly dab on and give it just a snow-kissed effect. I'm going really lightly with this, just in and along some of the branches, along the pine cones. I don't want it to be fully covered, just it looks like the snow's come down through the canopy of the forest and just caught on some of the branches a little bit, caught on the moss a little bit. Now I'm also going to take and I'm going to add just a little bit of the paint here right around the bottom of the door, because it's snowing and the snow is maybe gathering a little bit around the door here and the corners and above the door frame a little bit. It's just falling and gathering right on the little edge of the top of the mushroom, gathering the little nooks and crannies. While our little chipmunk family drinks tea at a little wooden table inside by a fireplace. I'm going to do the same thing to the window. I'm just going to add a little bit of snow right along the nooks, the crannies, and the crevices, all the places where you see snow gathering on windows. And here is what our little woodland Christmas house Christmas tree house, I guess, is looking like. I'm absolutely loving how this turned out. For the final touch, I'm just going to take this little battery operated pack of fairy lights. This is just one of the little fairy lights from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to snugly wrap these around. I'm going to take the wire and I want to hide it as much as I can in and among the pine and tuck it down in there so that you don't really see the wire at all. You could use plug-in lights too if you wanted to. That would also work, but I had these on hand, so I'm just going to add those, and I can tuck my battery pack right underneath my cone, and here we are. I absolutely adore how this turned out. It is going to go on my little table in my living room. I think my kids are going to love this. It's going to hopefully inspire a little bit of imagination with them. For this next DIY, I'm going to be using this 8x10 frame from the Dollar Tree. Ignore those little paper doilies. I originally thought I was going to use those in this project, and then I changed my mind and went with something else. So just forget about saying this. So I'm going to take a pop out all the inside of my little frame, and I want to give this a coat. I don't want the black frame. I want to give this a little bit of a rustic look. So I'm going to take my Waverly white chalk paint, and I'm just going to give this a light coat over the top. It's not going to be completely covered. Some of the black frame is going to be showing through, and that's okay. That's exactly kind of what I wanted. It's going to just add a little bit of layer of color for this for when I am done. It'll all work out. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and paint the back of my frame as well, because I like the backs of my projects to be finished as well. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly antique wax that I get from Walmart, and I'm just going to lightly dry brush right over top of this white paint. So when I dry brush this over the white paint with a little bit of the black frame that's still kind of showing through that paint, the whole effect gives this almost like a faux wood frame look. At least I think so. And I'm going to do the same with the back with my antique wax as well, so that it matches all around. Next, I'm going to pick a piece of scrapbook paper here. I had to think of the word there for a second. I almost said poster board. Scrapbook paper. You could choose whatever one that looks good to you. I picked this little candy cane stripe one that I get at Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to cut it to fit inside my frame. And I'm going to pop it back inside my frame. I'm not adding the glass back yet. I will at the end. But for right now, I'm just going to pop it in the frame so that I can make sure when I add my stuff to the inside, I make sure I get it centered good. And yes, we are going to make a little rustic wall hanging here. So for the inside of my frame, I'm going to take this wood snowflake. This is one of the larger ones. They come in, it's a set of 3. They're kind of from the Dollar Tree. They're attached with twine. They're like a long hanger. And I cut it apart, and I used the other 2 in other projects. And I had this one left over, and I thought this would be perfect for this 8x10 frame. You could also use the little snowflake wood ornaments that they have. They're a little bit smaller, but they would also work. Now, since this is a snowflake, I wanted to add just a little bit of white to our little rustic wood look here. So I'm just taking my Waverly white chalk paint and very lightly, I'm not completely covering this, I'm just lightly dry brushing a little bit of white, just giving our snowflake a little bit of a snow-kissed look here. Then I'm going to add my glass back in, and here you go. You have a frame that you could set on a shelf. You could hang it on a wall. It's just a really cute, simple little Christmas or even winter wall hanging, or a way to decorate a mantle or table. Easy, budget friendly, and so cute. For this last DIY, I'm going to take one of these pine cones. This is one of the cinnamon scented pine cones. And I'm going to take some of this larger jute twine that I get from Walmart and some 1.5-inch wired burlap ribbon. This is just ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to start off by just making a really easy little bow here out of my burlap ribbon. I'm just going to fold it over here, one loop on each side. Scrunch it up in the middle here and use some of my jute twine to tie it off in the center. And I'm going to leave some decently long tails on this twine because I'm not only going to use that to tie my bow, I'm also going to use the longer tails to tie together to make a hanger, because we're going to take these little pine cones and this little bow and we're just going to make a cute little pine cone ornament. This is an alternative way to hang these on a tree without just sticking them in the tree. You could actually hang them on a branch. These are also cute to hang on doorknobs or on the pegs of shelves. And if you use the cinnamon ones, they smell really good. So just taking the longer tails here, just tie them in a circle or a loop so that you have a hanger. And I'm going to trim those extra long little ties off there. And I'm going to add just a small dab of hot glue to the ends of my knot and push the ends that I cut off down in that glue. That way they don't ever unravel on me. Sometimes when you cut those knots off down real close, over time they can unravel. This will make sure that they stay put. So our bow is a bow as well as a way to hang this. Then taking some hot glue, I'm just going to hot glue this right to the kind of center top front of our pine cone. Now to finish it off, I wanted to take one of these little rusty jingle bells. You can get these off Amazon. And I'm just going to put that right in the center of my bow. Easy peasy, rustic, budget friendly, and so cute. Leave me a comment and let me know which of today's projects were your favorite, or if you think you might try any of these. I absolutely love how all of these turned out. I don't think I can pick a favorite. Well, maybe the tree. So that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed today's DIYs. If you did, I hope you'll consider hitting that like button, maybe sharing it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button so you can craft with me again in the future. And until next time, happy crafting. God bless.